A stranger among stars. The twin suns of Junction Station cast long shadows across the bustling marketplace, their harsh light reflecting off the weathered metal walls and makeshift stalls. Nyara pulled her worn cloak tighter around herself and her daughter Venna, their footsteps quiet against the station's worn deck plating. Her silver-tinted skin would draw too much attention here, even among the diverse crowd of traders and travelers. "Mama, I'm hungry," Venna whispered, her iridescent eyes peering up from beneath the cloak's hood. The child's violet hair was carefully tucked away, though a few strands escaped to frame her delicate features. "Soon, little star," Nyara promised, though her own stomach twisted with hunger. Their last credits had gone to docking fees, and no one seemed willing to hire an obvious outsider, especially one with a child in tow. The station's market level stretched before them, a maze of colorful stalls and shops selling everything from exotic fruits to salvaged spacecraft parts. Nyara's gaze lingered on a repair shop's window, where intricate mechanical components lay displayed. Before everything had changed, she'd been one of the finest engineers in the celestial Concordat. Now, those skills might as well be stardust. "Keep moving," a gruff voice growled as a massive Krevlak shouldered past them, his crystalline exoskeleton clicking against the metal floor. Nyara stumbled, catching herself against a wall. Venna whimpered softly, pressing closer to her mother's side. "It's all right, little one," Nyara soothed, though her heart raced. They couldn't stay here much longer. Eventually, someone would recognize them, and then. A commotion near one of the larger repair bays caught her attention. A crowd had gathered, watching as two mechanics argued over a malfunctioning gravitic stabilizer. Nyara could see the problem immediately. They'd reversed the polarity on the main coupling, a rookie mistake that could cause catastrophic failure if left unchecked. She hesitated, torn between keeping a low profile and preventing what could become a dangerous accident. The decision was made for her when Venna suddenly sneezed, her natural bioluminescence briefly lighting up their hiding spot. "Hey, you there!" A deep voice called out. Nyara froze, her protective instincts screaming to run. But the voice didn't sound hostile. She turned slowly to find a tall human watching her, his dark skin marked with the stories of a life spent working with machines. "Yes," she answered cautiously, keeping Venna behind her. The human's eyes were kind, though shrewd. "Been watching you make the rounds. Looking for work?" Nyara straightened slightly, pride warring with desperation. "Yes. I have experience with mechanical systems." "That so?" The human gestured to the malfunctioning stabilizer. "Care to prove it?" It was a test, obviously. But also an opportunity. Nyara glanced down at Venna, who gave her an encouraging nod. Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward. "The problem is simple enough," she said, her voice growing stronger as she slipped into the familiar rhythm of engineering. "They've reversed the polarity on the main coupling, which is causing feedback in the gravitic field. If left uncorrected, it could lead to a cascade failure." The human's eyebrows rose. "Go on." Nyara approached the stabilizer, her movements precise despite her exhaustion. "See here. The power flow should be redirected through the secondary array first, then cycled back through the primary coupling. They've got it backwards." One of the arguing mechanics scoffed. "Like some vagrant would know better than dash." The human held up a hand, silencing him. "Do it." With practiced ease, Nyara's fingers danced over the control panel. The stabilizer's angry whine softened to a gentle hum, its diagnostic lights shifting from red to green. The crowd murmured appreciatively. "Well now," the human said, a smile tugging at his weathered features. "That's some mighty fine work. Name's Marcus Reed. I run Reed's repairs over on level 3. "Nyara," she replied cautiously. "And this is my daughter, Venna." Marcus crouched down to Venna's level, his smile warm. "Hello there, little one. That's quite a talented mother you've got." To Nyara's surprise, Vena didn't shrink away as she usually did with strangers. Instead, she studied Marcus with those two wise eyes of hers before offering a shy smile of her own. As it happens, Marcus continued, straightening up, I'm in need of someone with your skills. Pays fair, includes quarters if you need them. No questions asked about your past. He held up his hands at her suspicious look. Just honest work for honest pay. Nyara's throat tightened. It seemed too good to be true, and in her experience, such things usually were. But Vena's small hand slipped into hers, squeezing gently, and she knew they couldn't keep running forever. When would you want me to start? Marcus's grin widened. How about now? Got a Corellian freighter in bay for that's giving me fits. Could use a fresh pair of eyes. As they followed Marcus through the station's corridors, Nyara felt something she hadn't experienced in months, hope. Perhaps here, among the grease and spare parts and honest work, they could finally find a place to belong. She didn't notice the hooded figure watching from the shadows, or the way their communication device pulsed with a signal that reached far beyond Junction Station's borders. The signal carried a simple message, found them. The workshop's promise. Reed's repairs sprawled across 3 bays of Junction Station's industrial sector, a maze of workbenches, diagnostic equipment, and partially dismantled ships. The air hummed with the sound of machinery and carried the familiar sense of engine oil and ozone. For Nyara, it felt more like home than anywhere they'd been since fleeing the Concordat. Living quarters are through here, Marcus said, leading them past a row of powered-down maintenance droids. Nothing fancy, but it's clean and secure. He keyed open a door, revealing a modest but well-maintained apartment. Got its own environmental controls, basic amenities. Even managed to scrounge up some extra bedding for the little one. Vena immediately gravitated toward the small second bedroom, her eyes wide with wonder at the simple luxury of having her own space. Nyara fought back tears at her daughter's joy over something so basic. Thank you, she managed, her voice rough with emotion. This is more than generous. Marcus waved off her gratitude. Good help's hard to find out here. Speaking of which. He pulled out a data pad. Need to handle some paperwork. Station authorities get twitchy about undocumented workers. Nyara tensed, but Marcus's next words eased her fears. Standard contract, basic identity verification. Nothing too intrusive. He winked at her. Lots of folks out here looking for fresh starts. Station doesn't much care about where you came from, long as you follow their rules going forward. As they handled the documentation, a crash from the main workshop drew their attention. A string of colorful curses followed, and heavy footsteps approached. Boss! That Tartaran freighter's stabilizer is acting up again, oh. A massive woman with cybernetic arms stopped short in the doorway. Her dark skin was marked with intricate circuitry tattoos, and her eyes gleamed with artificial enhancement. Didn't realize we had company. Rena, meet our new engineer, Marcus said. Nyara and her daughter Vena. Nyara, this is Rena Zhou, my chief mechanic and occasional headache. Rena's augmented eyes whirred as they focused on Nyara. Silver skin, bioluminescent markings. Concordat, right? At Nyara's alarmed look, she laughed. Relax. Ex-military tech specialist. Seen your kind's work before. Impressive stuff. Former Concordat, Nyara corrected quietly. That life is behind us now. Something in Rena's expression softened. Yeah, know how that goes. Well, if Marcus vouches for you, that's good enough for me. Could use another set of hands around here, especially with the guild breathing down our necks. The Mechanics Guild's been trying to muscle in on independent shops, Marcus explained. Demanding oversight, fees, exclusive contracts. Making life difficult for those who don't play along. Let me guess, Nyara said dryly. You don't play along. Got it in one. Marcus's grin held a hint of steel. Built this place from nothing. Not about to let some corporate vultures tell me how to run it. Over the next few days, Nyara fell into an easy rhythm at the workshop. Her knowledge of advanced systems complemented Rena's practical expertise, and Marcus proved to be a fair and patient employer. More than that, he seemed to genuinely care about his workers' well-being. Vena, too, began to flourish. The child spent her days in a corner of the workshop Marcus had set up specially for her, complete with old parts to tinker with and educational programs on a spare data pad. Sometimes, Nyara would catch her daughter watching the mechanics work with an intensity that went beyond simple curiosity. It was during their first week that Nyara discovered just how much Marcus knew, or suspected, about their situation. She was working late, recalibrating a particularly stubborn navigation array, when he approached with 2 steaming cups of actual Earth coffee. "Thought you might need this," he said, offering her one. "You've been at it for hours." "Thank you." She accepted the cup gratefully, savoring the rich aroma. "This must have cost a fortune out here." "Got my sources." Marcus settled onto a nearby crate, studying her over his own cup. "You know, most engineers I've met can barely handle basic maintenance on Concordat tech. You don't just understand it, you improve it." Nyara's hands tightened around her cup. "I told you, that life is dash. Behind you." "So you've said." His voice was gentle. "Thing is, I've been around long enough to recognize quality training. The kind usually reserved for the Concordat's elite. Their ruling class." The silence stretched between them, broken only by the distant hum of the station's systems. Finally, Nyara spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Are you going to report us?" Marcus looked genuinely offended. "What kind of person do you take me for?" "Everyone here has secrets, Nyara. Some of us just have bigger ones than others." He set his cup down with a quiet click. "I don't need to know why you left. But if trouble comes looking for you, it'd be helpful to know what kind of trouble to expect." Before she could respond, a small voice called out. "Mama?" Vena stood in the workshop doorway, rubbing sleep from her eyes. In her drowsy state, her natural bioluminescence was more pronounced, creating patterns that no ordinary Concordat child should be capable of producing. Marcus whistled softly. "Well, that answers one question." "She's the reason we ran," Nyara admitted, gathering Vena into her arms. "The Concordat, they would have taken her. Studied her. My daughter is not a laboratory specimen." "No," Marcus agreed, his expression hardening. "She's a child who deserves to grow up free." He stood, decision made. The workshop security systems are top of the line. Rena's got contacts in less legitimate circles. If anyone comes asking questions, they won't find answers here. Nyara blinked back tears. "Why help us?" Marcus's smile held a touch of old pain. "Let's just say I know something about protecting family from those who'd harm them." He reached out, gently tousling Vena's hair. "Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be busy, got a whole fleet of mining shuttles coming in for maintenance." As Nyara carried her drowsy daughter back to their quarters, she felt some of the constant tension in her shoulders ease. They weren't safe, not completely, but for the first time since fleeing the Concordat, they had allies. People willing to stand with them. What she didn't know was that their time of relative peace was about to end. In the depths of space, a Concordat pursuit vessel adjusted its course, following rumors and whispers to a distant station where a silver-skinned woman and her unusual daughter had been seen. The hunt was on. Hidden talents revealed. The incident happened during a routine maintenance shift. Rena was working on an old mining vessel's propulsion system when the gravitational stabilizer suddenly failed. 2 tons of machinery began to plummet toward the workshop floor, directly above where Vena sat playing with her spare parts. "Vena!" Nyara's scream tore through the workshop, but she was too far away to reach her daughter in time. What happened next defied explanation. Venna looked up at the falling machinery, her eyes blazing with intense bioluminescence. The massive component stopped mid-fall, hovering impossibly in the air. Streams of silvery light flowed from her small hands, weaving through the machinery like liquid starlight. Not only did the stabilizer stop falling, it began to repair itself. Components shifted and realigned, power conduits reconnected, and within moments the unit hummed back to life, gently settling onto its mounting brackets. The workshop fell silent except for the soft whir of Rena's cybernetic eyes adjusting focus. Marcus stood in the doorway, coffee cup frozen halfway to his lips. "Well," he said finally. "That's definitely not standard Concordat engineering." Venna swayed slightly, her unusual glow fading. Nyara rushed to catch her daughter as she slumped forward, exhausted but unharmed. "It's all right, little star. You're safe." "Sorry, Mama," Venna mumbled. "I know we're supposed to hide it, but—" "You did exactly right," Marcus interrupted, his voice firm. He crossed the workshop, crouching down beside them. "You saved yourself and probably prevented serious damage to the shop. That's nothing to apologize for." Rena let out a low whistle. "No wonder the Concordat wants her. Kid's got more talent in her little finger than most engineering crews have combined." "She's not just talented," Nyara said quietly, stroking Venna's hair as the child dozed in her arms. "She's something entirely new. The Concordat's genetic engineering created the perfect workforce, each bloodline optimized for specific roles. But Venna, she can communicate with technology directly. Understand it. Heal it. And they'd turn her into a weapon," Marcus concluded, his expression darkening. "Or worse. They'd study her, try to replicate her abilities through breeding programs." Nyara's arms tightened around her daughter. "I couldn't let that happen. So we ran." "Smart move," Rena said. She tapped her cybernetic arm thoughtfully. "Lots of folks would kill for that kind of ability. Or kill to prevent others from having it." Before anyone could respond, the workshop's security system chimed an alert. Marcus checked the display and cursed. "Speaking of unwanted attention, we've got Concordat peacekeepers requesting permission to dock. Standard inspection, they say." "They're lying," Venna murmured, not opening her eyes. "The ships, they're angry. Built for hunting." Rena raised an eyebrow. "Kid can read ships now too." "We need to run," Nyara said, rising with Venna in her arms. But Marcus held up a hand. "Running's exactly what they'll expect. Besides, where would you go? Junction stations locked down tight during inspections." A slow smile spread across his face. "Think it's time for a little station hospitality instead." Over the next hour, the workshop underwent a remarkable transformation. Rena's contacts produced documentation showing Nyara as a long-term employee, complete with backdated payment records. Marcus called in favors from other shop owners, who quickly spread word of the Concordat's heavy-handed tactics. By the time the peacekeepers arrived, half the station was watching. The Concordat officers cut impressive figures in their crystalline armor, but Marcus met them with the easy confidence of a man on his own territory. "Welcome to Reed's Repairs, gentlemen. How can we help the Concordat today?" "We're conducting a search for fugitives," the lead officer stated. "A female engineer and her child fled the Dominion 3 months ago. Stolen technology involved." "Stolen technology?" Marcus's laugh was perfectly calibrated, just skeptical enough without being confrontational. "In my shop. Feel free to look around, but I run a legitimate business here." The officers began their search, but found themselves hindered at every turn. Other shop owners accidentally blocked corridors with cargo. Station maintenance coincidentally scheduled pressure tests in key areas. Even the local security force took their time processing paperwork. Meanwhile, Rena had hidden Nyara and Venna in plain sight, disguised as part of her cybernetics crew, their distinctive features concealed by maintenance gear. They worked calmly on a defunct shield generator while chaos unfolded around them. "Don't like this," one officer muttered, his crystalline armor catching the light. "Station's too cooperative. They're hiding something." "Or maybe," Marcus suggested pleasantly, "folks out here just don't appreciate being bullied. You've disrupted my business long enough. Unless you've got specific charges to file." The lead officer's expression hardened, but he had no choice. Without proof, pushing harder would create a diplomatic incident. "We'll be watching this sector," he warned. "You do that," Marcus replied. "We'll be right here, fixing ships and making an honest living. Like always." After the Concordat vessels departed, the workshop erupted in celebration. But Nyara couldn't shake her unease. She found Marcus in his office, staring at security feeds. "They'll be back," she said softly. "With more forces, better evidence. We've put you all at risk." "Probably," he agreed, turning to face her. "But they'll find this station better prepared next time. Rena's already talking about upgrading our security systems. Think your girl might be willing to help with that?" As if summoned by her mention, Venna appeared in the doorway. The child's eyes still held traces of their earlier glow. "The ships told me something else," she said seriously. "Before they left. They're scared." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "The Concordat? Scared of what?" "Change," Venna replied simply. "They can feel it coming. Like stars about to go nova." Nyara felt a shiver run down her spine, but Marcus just laughed. "Out of the mouths of babes," he said, ruffling Venna's hair. "Change is exactly what they should be afraid of. Speaking of which." He pulled out a data pad. "Think it's time we made your position here a bit more official. How do you feel about becoming a partner in the business?" "Marcus, I couldn't possibly dash." "Consider it enlightened self-interest," he interrupted. "Way I see it, having someone who can literally talk to machines on staff is good for business. Besides," his expression softened, "found family's still family." Later that night, as Nyara watched Venna sleep peacefully in their quarters, she reflected on how much had changed in such a short time. They were still in danger, yes. The Concordat wouldn't give up easily. But they were no longer alone. In the workshop below, she could hear Rena singing off-key as she worked on security upgrades. Marcus's voice drifted up occasionally, calling out suggestions or jokes. The sounds of home, of family, of belonging. What she didn't know was that far above the station, hidden in the stellar debris field, another ship waited and watched. Its pilot was neither Concordat nor local security, but something else entirely. Something that had been watching Venna's abilities with great interest. The game was about to change, and none of them were ready for what would come next. Echoes of the past. The warning came from the ships first. Venna woke in the middle of the station's night cycle, her eyes pulsing with silvery light. "Mama," she called out softly. "They're afraid again." Nyara was instantly alert, years of running having honed her instincts. "What is it, little star? What do they sense?" "Someone different," Venna whispered. "Not Concordat. Not station security. They feel old. Like echoes of ancient stars." Before Nyara could question further, the workshop's emergency comm chirped. Marcus's voice came through, tense but controlled. "Nyara, get to the main bay. Now." She found both Marcus and Rena already there, staring at a holographic display. A single ship hung in the debris field above the station, if you could call it a ship. The vessel seemed to be made of living crystal, its form constantly shifting like liquid starlight. "That's impossible," Nyara breathed. "The Luminari were extinct long before the Concordat formed. Their ships were lost to time. Care to share with the class?" Marcus asked, his hand resting casually near his hidden blaster. The Luminari are legends. The species that first mastered faster-than-light travel, who could speak to machines as easily as breathing. They vanished millennia ago, leaving only ruins and stories. She swallowed hard. Stories that the Concordat used as the foundation for their genetic engineering programs. Rena's cybernetic eyes whirred as they focused on the display. Let me guess, they were trying to recreate Luminari abilities in their own population. Without success, Nyara confirmed. Until Vena. The child had followed them down, her small hand finding Marcus's larger one. He squeezed it gently, protective. The ship's requesting permission to dock, he said. Single occupant. Says they want to talk. It's okay, Vena said suddenly. The ship likes them. Says they're family. The adults exchanged glances. Finally, Marcus nodded. Rena, get your people in position. If this goes sideways, I want to be ready. The being that emerged from the crystalline ship was both beautiful and unsettling. They appeared humanoid, but their form shifted like starlight on water, making it impossible to focus on any one feature. Only their eyes remained constant, the same iridescent shade as Vena's. Well met, young one, the being said, their voice carrying harmonics that made the station's metal walls hum in response. I am Sentinel Thex, last watcher of the Luminari. I've been seeking you for a very long time. Stay back, Nyara warned, stepping between the being and her daughter. But Vena moved forward, fascinated. You're like the ships, she said. But bigger. Older. Thex smiled, the expression rippling across their fluid features. And you, child, are something I never expected to find, proof that our legacy lives on, though changed by time and circumstance. What do you want? Marcus demanded, his usual easy manner replaced by protective tension. To help, Thex replied simply. And to warn you. The Concordat's interest in your child is not mere scientific curiosity. They've discovered something in the old ruins, technology they cannot control. They believe Vena's abilities might be the key to unlocking it. What kind of technology? Rena asked, her cybernetic arms humming as weapon systems activated beneath the surface. The kind that should remain locked away, Thex's form darkened like a storm-swept sea. My people learned too late the price of certain kinds of power. We sealed away our most dangerous creations before passing into history. A distant explosion rocked the station. Alarms blared as emergency containment fields snapped into place. Multiple Concordat warships dropping out of FTL, Rena reported, checking security feeds. More than last time. Way more. They followed me, Thex said grimly. I had hoped to reach you first, but dash. Another explosion, closer this time. The station's public address system crackled to life, announcing emergency protocols and evacuation procedures. No time for regrets, Marcus snapped. We need to move. Rena dash. Already on it, boss. She pressed a data chip into his hand. Emergency protocols, just like we planned. Transports ready in Bay 12. You have a plan? Nyara asked, gathering Vena close. Marcus's smile held no humor. Always have a backup plan when you live on the edge of civilized space. Wasn't planning on having a legendary alien being involved, but we'll improvise. I can help, Thex offered. My ship dash. Will be their primary target, Marcus finished. No offense, but you'll draw too much attention. We need to disappear, not make a statement. The station shuddered again. Through the workshop's viewport, they could see Concordat warships taking up attack positions. They're not supposed to fire on a civilian station, Rena growled. The Concordats grown desperate, Thex said. They believe they've found something in the ruins that could restore their declining power. They won't let anyone stand in their way, not even their own laws. Then we change the game, Vena said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at the child, whose eyes now blazed with internal light. The ships want to help. All of them. Even the bad ones. Understanding dawned on Nyara's face. Of course. Every ship in Concordat space is built using remnants of Luminari technology. Technology that responds to Vena's abilities. You're not suggesting Marcus began, but Vena was already moving. She placed her small hands against the workshop's walls, and suddenly every screen, every display, every piece of technology in range lit up with silvery energy. She's accessing the station's systems, Rena reported, her cybernetic eyes tracking data streams. And, something else. Something bigger. Through the viewport, they watched in amazement as the Concordat warship's weapons powered down. Emergency systems activated, locking out bridge controls. The mighty vessels hung helpless in space, their own technology turned against them. "That's my girl," Marcus whispered proudly. But the display of power took its toll. Vena swayed, her light dimming. Tired, she mumbled as Nyara caught her. "We still need to move," Marcus insisted. "This is our chance." Thanks. But the Luminari was already nodding. "Go. I will ensure they cannot follow. Perhaps it's time the Concordat learned why my people chose to fade from power, rather than risk its corruption." As they hurried toward the emergency transport, carrying precious cargo and whatever they could quickly salvage from the workshop, Nyara felt a strange mix of fear and hope. They were running again, yes. But this time they had something they'd never had before, a family willing to run with them. In Bay 12, a sleek transport waited, its systems already warmed up. As they boarded, Vena stirred in her mother's arms. "The ships say there's somewhere safe," she murmured. "Somewhere the bad people can't follow. Somewhere we can be free." Marcus took the pilot's seat, his hands flying over familiar controls. "Then that's where we're headed, kiddo. All of us. Together." The transport lifted off as chaos erupted behind them. The last thing they saw before jumping to light speed was Thex's crystalline ship blazing like a newborn star, holding the line against an empire. Beyond the stars. The transport ship sliced through hyperspace, its systems humming with an unusual harmony. Vena sat in the co-pilot's seat beside Marcus, her small hands resting lightly on the control panel. The ship's normal navigation displays had been replaced by streams of silvery light that only she could properly interpret. "The old ones left paths," she explained, her voice dreamy with exhaustion. "Hidden roads between the stars. The ships remember them, even if people forgot." "She's accessing quantum slipstreams," Nyara explained, monitoring the engine readouts with growing amazement. "Theoretical passages through spacetime that the Luminari supposedly used. The Concordat spent centuries trying to prove they existed. And now their ships are helping us use them to escape," Rena chuckled from her position at the weapons console. Almost poetic. Marcus kept his hands steady on the controls, trusting Vena's guidance while ready to take over if the strain became too much for her. "Any idea where these hidden roads lead, kiddo?" "Home," Vena said simply. "The ships say we're going home." The transport shuddered as it transitioned from normal hyperspace into something else entirely. The view outside the windows shifted from the usual starfield to ribbons of light that seemed to fold in on themselves impossibly. "Engineering systems are going crazy," Rena reported. "Never seen readings like these." "But the ship isn't stressed," Nyara noted, checking diagnostics. "It's as if this is how it was always meant to travel." Hours passed in the strange space, time feeling fluid and uncertain. They took turns resting, though no one could truly sleep. Finally, Vena sat up straighter, her eyes brightening. "We're here." The transport emerged from the quantum slipstream into a star system hidden behind a dense nebula. A massive gas giant dominated the view, its swirling storms creating a natural barrier. But it was one of its moons that drew their attention, a small world gleaming with the unmistakable shine of ancient technology. That's impossible, Nyara breathed. An intact luminary outpost. All their facilities were supposed to have been destroyed or stripped bare millennia ago. Not destroyed, Venna corrected. Sleeping. Waiting for someone who could wake them properly. As they approached the moon, its surface seemed to ripple like liquid metal. A landing bay irised open, welcoming them home. Multiple ships approaching, Rena warned, but Venna remained calm. It's okay, she assured them. Look. Through the viewport, they watched as vessels of all types emerged from hiding spots within the nebula, independent traders, refugee ships, even a few that bore marks of having once belonged to the Concordat. All of them crewed by people who had sought freedom from oppression and control. A sanctuary, Marcus realized. All this time, there was a sanctuary hidden out here. They landed in a bay that seemed to repair and refuel their ship automatically, the ancient systems responding eagerly to Venna's presence. As they disembarked, they were met by a diverse group of beings led by a familiar crystalline form. Welcome to Haven, Thek said, their form more stable now that they were in their own environment. One of the last great works of my people, a place where anyone seeking freedom could find refuge. But how did you get here ahead of us? Rena demanded, her cybernetic eyes scanning for threats out of habit. The quantum streams exist outside normal spacetime, Vex explained. I simply took a different path to the same destination. One that allowed me to ensure the Concordat's pursuit ships became permanently lost in the nebula. And now? Nyara asked, holding Venna's hand tightly. What happens to us? That depends entirely on you, Vex replied. Haven exists to protect and nurture freedom in all its forms. Some stay, finding purpose in helping maintain this sanctuary. Others rest and resupply before continuing their journeys. The choice is yours. Marcus looked around the vast bay, his engineers' eye taking in the incredible technology. Place like this probably needs constant maintenance. Lots of opportunities for skilled repair work. Indeed, Thexa's fluid features rippled with amusement. Especially now that we have someone who can communicate directly with the systems. If you're interested in establishing a more permanent operation here, we'd need to send word back to Junction Station, Rena cut in. Let our contacts know we're safe. Maybe set up some discreet transportation networks for others seeking refuge. Already thinking about expansion? Marcus teased, but his eyes were serious as he looked at Nyara. What do you think? Ready to help build something new? Nyara felt tears in her eyes as she looked at these people who had become her family. Marcus, who had given them a chance when no one else would. Rena, whose gruff exterior hid a fierce loyalty. And Thex, who represented a heritage she never knew her daughter shared. The ships are happy, Venna announced, her small face radiant. They say we're where we're supposed to be. Well then, Nyara smiled, squeezing her daughter's hand. I suppose we're home. Over the following months, Haven grew and evolved. Marcus and Nyara established a new repair facility, combining human ingenuity with luminary technology in ways that drew skilled workers from across the galaxy. Rena's security expertise helped establish safe routes for those seeking sanctuary, while her connections brought in a steady stream of clients who valued discretion and skilled work. Venna flourished under Thexa's guidance, learning to control and expand her abilities while remaining the bright, curious child who had won so many hearts. Other children with unusual gifts began to find their way to Haven, turning the ancient outpost into a true sanctuary for the next generation. The Concordat never stopped searching, but Haven's defenses, combined with the nebula's natural interference, kept them blind to its existence. Sometimes, when ships arrived bearing refugees from their space, they carried whispered stories of mysterious malfunctions and system failures that allowed escapes. Stories of technology turning against its masters in ways that seemed almost deliberate. One evening, as Haven's artificial sun created a spectacular light show in the nebula, Marcus found Nyara on their favorite observation deck. Venna was below in the main plaza, playing with other children while their various parents shared meals and stories. "Ever regret it?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Running from them? Giving up your position?" Nyara leaned back against him, watching their daughter laugh as she made small mechanical toys dance through the air for her friend's amusement. "Never. We found something better than power or position here. We found family." Speaking of family, Marcus said casually, Rena's latest group of refugees included a Concordat geneticist. "Apparently, there's a growing movement within their society. People questioning the old ways, inspired by stories of a child who could talk to machines. You think we started something?" "I think," he kissed her temple, "that change always starts small. With one person choosing to help another. With a mother protecting her child. With love being stronger than fear." Below them, Venna looked up and waved, her natural bioluminescence creating patterns that rippled through Haven's responsive systems like joy made visible. Around them, the ancient station hummed with contentment, its systems singing in harmony with its inhabitants. They had found more than just a hiding place. They had found a home, a purpose, and a future where being different wasn't a curse but a gift to be celebrated. A future they would build together, one act of kindness at a time. Above them, the nebula swirled with colors no natural phenomenon could explain, as if the universe itself was celebrating the endless possibilities that arise when people choose to give each other a chance.